most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Tim Marshall. Is an engineer and meteorologist. He's actually was in the weather. He's in the Weather Hall of Fame, which is well deserved and crazy. But first, Tim, just welcome to the Telethon. Thanks for giving your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Tim.
Yeah, we're so excited
so
for you to be
it's
here.
one of the big reasons, if you're not familiar with Tim Marshall, he's been a storm chaser for at least a decade. It's probably safe to say, right, Tim? But he's been chasing for a long time. But one of his specialties is been to follow up, and he contracts with the National Weather Service to really check out a lot of these disasters and post follow-up of tornadoes, to help measure the wind speeds and help determine the EF scales, and various other things. So the point is Tim has seen certainly well over his share of disasters. And Tim, so before we get into a whole lot, I guess that's really the focus here. And what I wanted to ask you, what have been some of the most memorable of all of them that you've witnessed? What have been some of the most memorable that you've reported to and come across, and that really took your breath away?
There's many that have taken my breath away. Many disasters. How do you pick a disaster out of all you've looked at? It's like picking your favorite child. Can't do that. It's like there's each one of them is unique. Some are more severe than others in terms of intensity. Others are more severe in terms of area. But, the most intense tornadoes I've seen certainly have been Gerald, Texas, which is the top end 5, and Bridge Creek, Oklahoma, another top end 5. So those are some of the more severe ones. And then just below that is like Joplin and Greensburg. So Greensburg was the first EF5 tornado. I looked at that. So there's been a lot of very extreme tornadoes I've seen.
What was most memorable, I guess? Was there something that maybe you saw that it was the first time you had seen something like that and went, oh my gosh? Or, what were those things that really triggered your breath being taken away?
Well, both Gerald and Bridge Creek scoured the ground, denuding vegetation from the ground. So that's an indication of intense winds at the ground. Gerald stripped pavement, so the blacktop pavement off a road, and so did one of the tornadoes in 2011. And so that's another indication. Gerald also ground up things, or you couldn't find a board more than about 4 or 5 feet because it was just ground up. And the people were ground up that were in the path. The trees were nubbed at the bottom. It was not just merely breaking a tree off. These were actually nubbed trees, solid oak trees that had no branches on them. They were just sticks, basically 8 to 10 feet above the ground. So very intense, slow-moving tornado, Gerald, Texas was.
Tim, I feel like you've seen so much when it comes to disasters, and I know you go on site to just understand and measure the EF scale, but you also storm chase on your own. So how many storm chases have you been on this year? And what was the most impressive tornado that you saw?
Each year, I have many hats I wear, right? So I have my engineering helmet, and then I have my storm spotter cap I put on. So I have many hats I put on. Yeah. So my job is to go out and evaluate damage to specific buildings. And then my hobby is to go out and chase tornadoes and hurricanes at close range. So my whole life is a disaster. Literally.
No,
Yeah.
Organized disaster, maybe? I don't know.
Organized. So I've gone out maybe 12, 15 times this year. I saw about 5 or 6 tornadoes this year. On the big tornado days, I missed because I was out surveying damage from the tornadoes. I surveyed 3 tornado tracks this year, so far. And yeah, I mean, Kimball, Nebraska was nice because that tornado was out in the open field. It was very picturesque, photogenic. There were some lightning bolts coming through the tornado, which was really odd.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was nice to see the Kimball, Nebraska tornado earlier this year.
And so I have to tell everyone, if you haven't been to the National Storm Chaser Summit, you need to go because Tim Marshall puts on a show. His presentation was
Does he pack the
absolute-
stands?
Oh, it was absolutely epic. Like one of my favorite, and I go to a lot of conferences. I've seen so many speakers, and he brings it. And like, I so want to ask you, Tim, what your presentation is going to be like, because I know I'm sure you're probably preparing. I won't do that. We'll leave it maybe a surprise, unless you do want to give a sneak peek.
Well, Jen, you're familiar with the teaser, aren't you?
I am.
So yeah, so I will tease you. Yeah,
Okay.
I will not be myself. I mean, I will simply not be who you see I am. I will put it that way. Certainly, it's going to be fun and unusual for sure. But yeah, there's simply going to be something to see. I try to outdo myself every year, as you know. This all started with back in around 2000, where Tim Samaras and Roger Hill were put on this Chaser Con, which is in Denver, and every talk was an hour of photographs and soundings and cape. It was boring.
I'm like,
So I said, can we spice this up a bit? And they go, what do you have in mind? I said, well, if I could be like a character, and come in and spice it up, is that something that you guys would be acceptable? And let's see how it goes. So the first year I was Clint Eastwood in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the storm chasing was good, bad, and ugly that year. So I came in the serape and my pillbox hat and my little stogie cigar, and so it was such a hit that they said, "Could you do this every year?" So for the next 25 years, I've been doing that.
Nice.
Every year, I've been a character of sorts.
What's been your favorite?
I think what went over very well, I got a standing ovation for, was a shark. I was a shark. Yeah. I came in, they played the theme from Jaws, and
Oh my God.
I
Yeah.
came in and I kept on biting everybody, and as I came up there. So it was like that. Yeah. It was kind of a hybrid costume. I bought a shark costume online, but it wasn't good at all. So I had it overhauled to make it really more realistic looking, with big teeth in it. And yeah, so it went over really well.
Oh my
Too bad
gosh. And
people
this
didn't
year
do
is
that
at
in
top.
school. Instead of having the boring stuff you get from professors all the time.
That would be fun.
I found that if you can make education more palatable to people, if you have some entertainment in there,
Agreed.
and kind of merge the two together. Education, it can be more palatable if you merge in the knowledge with fun.
I love that, Tim. I have a question. What are your 3 biggest tips or top tips when it comes to someone that wants to storm spot or storm chase?
Well, the first thing is to read all you can. I mean, we have the internet today, okay? Didn't have that when I was growing up. You can read so many things, especially online. There's Warning Decision Training Branch has got some beautiful modules to listen to. The SPC, Storm Prediction Center's got learning modules by Rick Thompson and Dr. Cohen. So I would say definitely look at all that. If you don't understand it, do some research. I mean, learn about weather forecasting, learn about soundings, CAPE, learn about photographs, and you'll pick this stuff up pretty quickly. I mean, you don't have to be a degreed meteorologist to learn this. Most of the the great chasers out there are not meteorologists. They are picked it up. They're passionate about it, and learn all you can. And then a second thing is to go with somebody that knows storm chasing. I mean, most storm chasers are good about that, and they'll take someone along there. Or if you can't find that, then join one of these tornado tours. That's another place to go. The National Weather Service has storm spotter training every year. Sign up for that. Go to that. Here in the Dallas area, they have two levels. They have a beginning storm spotter and they have advanced storm spotter. So learn all you can about that. It's very important to just fill your mind with all the good stuff and go out with somebody who's experienced before you try it on your own.
Yeah. I agree with that. I have one question, Tim, because I've been a meteorologist for a long time. I've looked at video forever, and you go out and look at these damage areas. And to this day, the thing that blows my mind that I still have a hard time wrapping my mind around is when, and maybe you've seen one, but like when a tornado might hit a house, part of the house is completely gone. And then you look over and then there's still glasses on the shelf. There's still dishes. There's still things that are hanging up on the wall. It's amazing to me. Have you seen anything like that where it's like almost half completely blown away and then partially still there?
I see it all the time. Wind wants to get into a building, and when it gets in, then it wants to get out. So if it blows in a window, then it's going to either blow out the back window or blow the roof off. And once that pressure is alleviated, at wind pressure, not barometric, wind pressure, once that wind pressure is alleviated, then that's it. It goes on down the road. So you can see glasses on a table still. You can see, refrigerator magnets still on your refrigerator. They haven't moved at all. Very unusual things you'll see. But that's just typically how wind works.
And Tim, I've got a question. When it comes to, developing new homes, new buildings, are you seeing that people are taking the proper precautions and, newer buildings and homes are being built in a way that can sustain against winds that are EF3 to EF5 strength?
Well, unfortunately, buildings are not being built to EF3 to EF5 strength. The building codes are minimal. And minimal means minimal. So we're talking about a 90-mile-an-hour 3-second gust or a 115 ultimate. That's what they're built for. So they're not built for EF3, EF5. And so you're going to generate a lot of debris when tornadoes come into there. So you need to protect yourself from all that. And that means to get into the middle of your house, lowest floor. Bathroom is preferred, closet, whenever you can put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Bathroom's good because you have additional plumbing and the walls anchored it down. So try to put as many defenses between you and the outside. Certainly you don't want big rooms. You don't, if you're in a school, you don't want to go to an auditorium or gym. You want to be in a small place, restroom, be out of anything that has glass, like some of my old classrooms used to have this an entire wall of glass there. So you don't want to deal with that. So certainly protecting yourself is the key. And I think it's a great idea is to have a helmet and some shoes around that you can get on quickly. I mean, one of the big problems I see, people don't, they walk like me around near barefoot or whatever in the house. And it's like, if tornado hits and there's all this glass around, it reminds me of the Bruce Willis in the Nakatomi Plaza there.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. Good reference.
And how am I going to walk in that? And it's like, so yeah, Bruce, you should have kept your shoes on. I mean,
That's
a good point. Yep, good point. Dina, do you have a question or?
No, but it was funny because when he said the shoes, like even when we're in tornado warnings, I am lucky enough to have a basement and I do make people bring their like my family bring their shoes down. Or, you've got that junk box of old shoes that nobody really wants to wear, but they're wearable. Just leave them in the basement. because I have seen so much video over the years, and I do remember one that always stuck out. I think it was Joplin, and this man was outside and he's walking through the rubble. He had no shoes. He was in his pajamas and he was holding his dog. And I thought, wow, like literally the shirt on your back and that's it. No shoes, no nothing. So it's scary. It's a good point.
So Tim, I appreciate your time and sharing your time with all of us today. And as we try to really support the Red Cross and disaster relief, which, as I mentioned at the beginning, you've seen your share of that. How can people follow you in this day and age without having a VHS player or beta, whatever we were talking about earlier? What's the best way people can get in touch with you or follow you?
Well, I'm only on one social media platform. It's Facebook. That's it. I don't go on. I don't tweet. I don't, Instagram. I don't do any of that. I don't do any TikTok or anything like that. I'm just an old-fashioned Facebook guy. So that's about way you can follow me on there.
Very good. Well, I'll tell you what, I want everybody to know we're now over $2,000 in donations at 2,135.
Nice.
So thank you, everybody, that we've been announcing here as the donations come in. But we're on our way to 3,000, and we want to try and hit 3,000 here before the end of this hour. So every little bit counts, and I think that's what's always important to share. Is it's the $5 here and the couple bucks there that also add up. Don't feel like you have to give 100 or 200. Certainly, if you've got the means to do that and help those that maybe you're having a great Thanksgiving this year, but you want to help those that need that kind of support, you can do that. But every little bit counts. So keep those donations up. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with Jen Walton, the founder of Girls Who Chase.
Ooh.
Water was rushing into my home. My first concern was making sure my family was safe. I received a text message. Red Cross was giving assistance in our area. They gave us immediate support. They gave us financial resources. We were able to make sure that we had some food. We had some things that could hold us until we were able to get back in our home. How you doing? Come in. Doing good. Welcome in. When the Red Cross offered financial assistance, it really gave us hope. With the money that they gave, we were able to use that money toward repairs. And we had to pull the carpet up. This whole top area collapsed from water, and the walls, water was coming from the walls somehow. The fact that Red Cross was there willing to give a helping hand to make sure that our needs were met, that really, was very inspiring. If I could talk to the donors of the Red Cross, I would tell them to continue giving, because the Red Cross, they're good stewards of what's given to them. And the fact that Red Cross was there to assist us when our area was hurt really gave us hope.
All right, welcome back to the Weather Pod's Disaster Relief Telethon. Things keep rolling here, so I hope you keep us on your TV, keep us on your monitor, your iPhone, your Android phone, whatever it is, keep us on all day. We're going till 10 p.m. Eastern tonight, and the great guests keep rolling in. I'm happy to introduce Jen Walton, who's the founder of Girls Who Chase and a storm chaser herself. Jen, welcome to the Telethon.
Welcome,
Thanks,
Jen.
all. Great to be here. Thank you so much for doing this important work.
Yeah, so I want to get, one of the things I want to start with is really get an update from you on girls who and really there's probably a lot of people listening, I guess, that aren't even familiar. I say this because I'm familiar with what you guys are doing.
Sure.
But maybe introduce a little bit of Girls Who Chase, and if you would follow up with that on what you're working on right now, kind of what's coming up.
Sure. So Girls Who Chase is an initiative that was formally founded in January 2022. And the primary focus is inspiring, empowering, and equipping girls and women to chase storms, the sciences, and their passions. So there's a lot to unpack there, essentially. But what makes Girls Who Chase special and I think unique in the weather space is that we're tackling not just cultural issues and kind of behavior around gender disparity in the weather space, but we're also looking at ways that we get in our own way, these kind of self-limiting stories, ways that we tell ourselves we're not capable of doing something that kind of follows my own journey into storm chasing. So it's kind of a dual pillar of empowerment, self-empowerment, and then girls and women in STEM. And a lot of that is education focused. So that we started as an Instagram page in July 2021. It has been quite the journey for us, all the way now to a multifaceted media platform. The focus really for the past year, which has seen unprecedented growth, I would say, and largely because the whole thing is unprecedented, has been education and building out our education arm. So the latest news for us is that I'm excited to announce our second spring training. Registration opens November 28th. Spring training is a day-long virtual, basically storm chasing 101 education event that anyone can access, that is really meant to focus on the how do I get started question. So we bring in experts from a variety of different areas in storm chasing. This year is going to focus very much on understanding storm structure, positioning appropriately for the type of chase. We have a safety component, and then we'll have some specialty talks as well, including a how to read radar 101 that MetEd will deliver. So we've got an early bird discount through December 31st. So stay tuned for all the announcements coming from us. It'll be the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, essentially, when that stuff comes out. We ran a media training last month, which went really well. So we're also looking at getting more folks on air to kind of build out that diversity of the storm chasing community. And with that comes a need to build some skills for folks to feel more comfortable doing public speaking work. So that was one of the first kind of communication specific trainings that we've run. We'll probably continue to bring those out occasionally as time allows. And then we've got a whole bunch of new content coming. We're actually revving the podcast back up now that Jen has gotten through her burnout from running things the last year and a half. So first big podcast episode, probably coming in the next week and a half or so, featuring Karen Kasiba. So excited to have her with us. And we also just ran a really cool photo art competition where the winning photo essentially is going to now be painted, or was just painted, by a storm artist named Jay Begum, who's known for just these amazing storm prints. So he just finished painting, and we're about to put that one up for auction. In
Wow,
fact,
I
that's
see
gonna be
Phil
beautiful.
pointing behind him. You have
say that one more
look at
time.
that. Oh, Phil, we can't hear you.
Oh, Phil's got his Jay painting.
Yeah,
behind
I've
him.
got
That's
a
awesome.
print from Jay. Yeah,
Oh,
I love
there
it.
it
I love what he
is.
does.
I
He's
need to
amazing. Yeah,
get
I've got one in
one.
my office too.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
we love Jay. Jay's been very supportive of Girls Who Chase. And so we're auctioning this painting off, which just happened to coincidentally essentially be Girls Who Chase colors, which is really
Nice.
cool. And 50% of the proceeds are going to go to Girls Who Chase and our operating costs. So very appreciative of Jay for helping us run this competition. It was really more about the artistic side of the storm photos. So any type of photo, cell phone, etc., was accepted. And it's just been kind of a fun way to have people share some of their art. And so that's kind of what we've got going on actively. There's one more big announcement that hopefully we'll be making in the next couple of months that I can't say anything about yet.
So you just dropped the little breadcrumb.
Well, yeah.
Yep.
What is
That was a
that?
big tease,
Come
Jen. That
on.
was a big tease.
A little
Yeah.
tease. A
Let me
tiny
just say
tease.
that, you know, most of the things that have come along for us have not been small. So this one probably won't be either. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh, Jen, I'm so happy for you. Like, Jen is just overall, if you don't know Jen personally, she's just an incredible human being in general. And you've been, you know, the founder and creator of something so powerful and inclusive, especially when it comes to women and girls in the science field. And I know that, and Dina knows that, you know, in the meteorological field, I mean, it's hard for women to get up there. There's not nearly as many women as there are males. So everything you're doing is so powerful and so incredible. And I think you should always know that. And I'm excited to know you. And for those that didn't sign up this year and didn't go to the 1-day training, I was a part of it and it was so incredible. You learned so much. I was on a panel and it was just so much fun. So if you want to learn more, you're going to be like, have a notebook jam-packed full of notes and everything. And you're going to learn so much from that. So definitely do that. And Jen, I love the update too of everything that's going on with you, but I would love to know, because I know you chase, do you like to chase more on your own? Do you like to chase with other people? And what have been some of your biggest, you know, most beautiful storms that you've seen this year?
I tend to chase on my own. Sometimes just because it's logistically easier. I don't have
to get all those
team.
other people together. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And my chase friends are really locationally scattered across the country from East Coast to West Coast. So if we happen to find everyone in the same place, we pull folks together. I did go on a couple chasecation trips with folks this year, which was fun. And then there were a couple ad hoc chases with other folks more locally. I think there were probably 2 particularly memorable chases for me this year. And that's in part because also in the last year, I have expanded beyond storm chasing to volcano chasing and aurora as well. I think aurora has become a really nice way for storm chasers to reduce our storm deprivation syndrome during the winter.
It is on my bucket list. It is
it's been fantastic. Well, and we're approaching the solar maximum, so we keep having opportunities, and some of them are big enough that they, you know, you can see them all the way into Colorado and even farther south. So having that opportunity has been amazing. But I think my most memorable storm moment this year was having the opportunity to be in Monument Valley, Arizona, and we were waiting. We were there for bolts, essentially. And what we got instead was a structured supercell that was sitting right behind some of the monuments. So that was kind of one of those moments where you realize that you're witnessing something that most just never get to see. So that was probably my most memorable storm moment. And then I had the opportunity to chase the cyclic tornadic supercell out of Chugwater, Wyoming. That gave me a couple of bucket list shots and luckily did very minor damage during its lifetime. There was like some outbuildings that were impacted and a few things overturned, but for the most part was just kind of a friendly chase with some great photographic.
Everything you're doing is exciting. And I mean, I've been doing this for 26 years and I'm aging myself, but I mean, I remember when I started, there were not a lot of women unless they were TV. And that's all it seemed people wanted. They weren't out in the field. They weren't doing this. And now it's like the difference I see of empowering women, like people are tagging each other. Like I met people on our last chase with the Stormfront Freaks, you know, we were tagging girls who chase and we would see each other in some parking lot. We're like, hey, and all of a sudden it's like, you know, these people, even though you just met them. And then you carry on a conversation, and that's a bigger conversation that leads to more. And it's, for me, it's so cool because I see women getting stronger and more, I'm not sure of the word, independent, but stronger in their own sense, that they can go out and do whatever they want. You know, I know when I first started, like, you almost even got kind of pushed away from other women. And now it's like, it just seems like there's been such a change. And I think that the Girls Who Chase has just really helped that. So bravo.
Thank you. The feedback I've gotten consistently is that it's given folks a home almost. And it isn't just storm chasers, in fact. And one of the things I forgot to mention is that we're going to be very active in the American Meteorological Society's 2024 annual meeting. So
nice.
that is going to, we have I'll be speaking in 2 sessions. And then we are co-hosting an event with the Earth Science Women's Network one of the evenings at AMS. And it's been interesting because I think it's not that there were not women storm chasing. It's not that they haven't been out there for as long as folks have been storm chasing. It's just that for one reason or another, and that's part of what we've been digging into, nobody has seen them. And in many cases, they haven't seen each other. And so some of this, going through this process and figuring out how we can best serve in this community, has been realizing that actually just being present in order to build community and create a space where folks feel like they belong has actually been an important part of that role. And it's figuring this out as you go along, right? It's not like I knew all of this when I started the Instagram page, but then hearing from folks that was what was happening for them is an amazing feeling, knowing that we're helping to build that space and helping people feel safe in the weather space and welcome.
And you really are, Jen. Like, it's just incredible what you've grown in such a short amount of time. And I would love for you to, share with everyone. I do know your personal story a little bit, but how did you get started chasing? And when did that happen? And just share your journey with us a little bit.
I'll make it quick because I know y'all are.
You take as much time as you want.
I mean, I could probably talk all day. That's how I roll. But it was one of those, like, I was into severe weather. I was a lifer for the most part. I went from sheer terror in my very young days to watching the Weather Channel nonstop, even when it was just weather on the 8s. And looking out the window, watching storms, and then becoming an avid consumer of all of the storm chasing media I could get my hands on, while simultaneously telling myself this isn't for me. And I've dug into the background and all the reasons for why that is, but one of them is that I wasn't seeing people who looked like me in all of the reality shows and stuff that was on weather networks, et cetera. It was 98% men, and the other 2% were kind of token roles, like somebody's girlfriend, daughter. And that has a direct impact on the culture that I found myself in when I started to storm chase, which is partially why I chase alone now, is that people assume that if women are chasing with men are running the show and doing all of the forecasting, and we're just sort of along for the ride. So I finally kind of took myself through a why are you telling yourself this story process that you can't chase in 2018, and went on a storm chase tour and learned just enough to realize that I could teach myself to forecast and get out there. And that was really what created the monster that now exists. And the whole story of Girls Who Chase follows that recognition that I was self-limiting, and, overcoming those stories to go do the thing that brings me the most joy. And now it's been an evolution of what kind of storm chaser am I, which I don't know, that nobody warns you about that part. Like, every storm is great, and now it's kind of like, well, I'm out for these particular reasons. Here's a new goal, and then once you fly over a volcano, your goals change again. Like, I found myself becoming a snob in a way that I have not appreciated. Like sometimes you just have to catch up with yourself. So making sure that I'm chasing the things that bring me joy and or contributing in a way that's useful from a reporting perspective.
Well, Jen, we definitely appreciate your time and coming on and filling us in a little bit on Girls Who Chase. I guess suggestion to anybody listening that wants to learn more, where do you want to direct them?
Yeah, for sure. Our website is the home for all of the work that we're doing. That's girlswhochase.com. We're very active right now on Instagram and Twitter, both under the handles Girls Who Chase. And then when spring training goes live, the link for that will be girlswhochase.com/spring training. So hopefully very easy to remember.
I hope so. If I can't remember that, then I'm in trouble.
Very good. Well, hey, shout out quick to Theo Train, donated $25 as well. So
Thanks,
Theo, thank you. Thank you for that. We're going to head to break, but we're coming right back with Hurricane Chaser Josh Morgerman. So we got more coming up. Stay tuned.
Thanks, y'all.
That land has been in our family for over 100 years. And it's a rural community that's not within the city limits. Because the tornado approached from the south, that area was the first place hit, and it destroyed every house. My dad met my mother when she was pregnant with me. He had an option. He could stay with a woman that was pregnant with a child that wasn't his, or he could be my dad. And one day he showed up in the hospital when my mother gave birth with my first pair of shoes. That was him, and since then, he's been with me, taught me everything I knew. He worked on a farm his entire life. When I was 13 years old, he took me to the cotton fields and made me stop chopping cotton. And I did that. Just to think that a tornado just destroyed everything that he had, absolutely everything. He's nearly blind. He's a double amputee, has prosthetics on right now, a kidney transplant recipient. And the night of the storm, I found him at 3 o'clock in the morning in the dark. For us, the Red Cross showing up in our community makes me feel like we're being seen. Today, I sat in front of a person with a Red Cross jacket on that said, okay, tell me about the medical equipment that was lost because you're a double amputee. Tell me about your medication that you didn't have access to for 4 days because you're a kidney transplant recipient. Tell me about your prosthetics. Do you have an extra pair of prosthetics? You know what? We're going to get you the resources you need. Someone with a Red Cross jacket on literally came to the area where my parents used to live and actually paid attention and felt that pain and stood in that moment with my parents. That's what the Red Cross means to me right now. And it makes me emotional because a lot of times we do get forgotten because we grew up in a poor situation and a lot of my family lives in poverty. We feel like people don't pay attention to us. Resources flow in, but you're not important enough. But the Red Cross came in and said, yes, you are important. They proved it. They sat down and they filled out the application for financial assistance for my parents. They filled out the application for housing assistance, for medical assistance. All of those things, those little things, those are tangible things that make a difference. Because you don't know what you got till it's gone. Especially when you don't have much in the first place. You don't know what you got until you almost lose it. And so when some organization like the Red Cross comes in and said, I'm gonna help you. It means something.
All right, so we keep rolling on the Weather Pod's Disaster Relief Telethon. Again, my name is Phil with Stormfront Freaks. We got Dina and Jen, our co-hosts, with us as well. But we're happy to bring in This next segment, we've got Josh Morgerman, Hurricane Chaser, joining us. And first off, just welcome, Josh. Welcome to the telethon. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, welcome,
Awesome to
Josh.
be here. I love this excuse to reunite with you guys. I always enjoy our live riffing.
One of the things I want to do is a lot of our guests we've had on here recently, Josh, are chasers that have been in the disasters, right? And so definitely have stories to tell and have memories to share. And you're certainly no different. You have been through some incredible and horrific, depending on what side of that equation you happen to be on, storms and tropical storms and hurricanes. I'm curious, what have been some of the most memorable disasters that you've seen, and I guess what made it so memorable for you?
Great question. You know, I've been in a lot of really bad hurricanes and typhoons, and I would say the two for me that top the list are outside of the United States. One was Super Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines, and actually the 10-year anniversary just happened. I just actually got back from the anniversary events, but it was an equivalent Category 5 hurricane, actually high-end Category 5, estimated winds of 190 miles an hour. The inner core of it, the eye wall, passed right over a city of about 220,000 people called Tacloban City, which is also on the tip of a peninsula and very low lying. And the city just got obliterated. The official death toll was 6,000, but they think it was probably closer to 15 to 25,000.
Oh, that's awful.
Even when you talk to government officials off the record, they say there's no way it was only 6,000. So I was there for that. At the height of the storm, jumped in the water to pull people out because our hotel went underwater. But that one, the level of destruction that I saw, just whole sections of the city just obliterated. I couldn't even find the streets, just dead bodies everywhere. A complete breakdown of civil order. I would say that was way up there. And then the other one would be a Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas. I was in Marsh Harbor, a town of about 5,000 people. Again, a strongest landfalling hurricane on record in North America, tied with the 1935 Labor Day hurricane. The eye passed right over the town, estimated winds of 185 miles an hour. Again, unbelievable destruction. I was trapped there for days, just living on the island in my car, which did not blow away. The one next to mine blew away, mine didn't. But again, there was the destruction you see with a complete breakdown of civil order, which was what happened. You had those kinds of big impacts. And when you look at the mess, I'll just conclude by saying, after these disasters, I felt a little bit after Michael in Panama City, you just look around and you think, where do you even start cleaning up?
Yeah. And I have a question, Josh, going back to the fact that you went back for the 10-year anniversary of that typhoon. What was it like going back with the structures and rebuilding? Because I know you see the disaster when it happens, and then you oftentimes revisit a lot of these places after the fact because they get hit often by hurricanes and typhoons. So what was it like, going back there and the rebuilding and just the sentiment of the community?
It was for me personally, it was like a healing experience. I don't get too emotional generally. I'm all about the hurricane, and I go in and I kind of almost tune out the human impact. And Haiyan was one of those storms where I was absolutely rattled by the human impact, just stuff that I saw, just the level of destruction, the dead bodies, just seeing injured children and stuff like that. I also had rescued a lot of people at the height of the storm. So there were victims I carried out of the water. So all of it just stuck with me. So when I got back after that one, I was kind of, I don't know what I was having issues with it afterward. So going back was helpful to them because I was keeping the story alive, and I was doing work in fundraising and stuff like that. But it was also helpful for me because I could start to see the recovery. I went back 3 months after, and even then you started to see, it was still really bad, but you're starting to see some signs of healing. And I went back a year after, which was much better. And then I just went back for the 10-year, and the 10-year was great. And what the folks there told me was that at the 10 years, every anniversary it had been sort of like a day of mourning. And this year they decided it was going to be a day of celebration because of how far the city had come in 10 years with the rebuilding. There's a neighborhood right down the street from the hotel that was completely obliterated, just gone. And now there's new houses there and stuff. And that was really cool. And just seeing stuff like that, it's like you're ending the story on a good note.
I did see a lot of your posts on X, where they gave you even signs that said welcome back. That had to be really, I mean, it was heartwarming to me, and it wasn't even me.
It was, the locals were so appreciative that we had rescued people and stuff, and they haven't forgotten. And when we come back, they put up these welcome signs. It's incredible how they treat us. This part of the Philippines. It's way far from Metro Manila. It's in an area called the Eastern Visayas. This is where Imelda Marcos, who was the wife of the leader of the Philippines for much of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Imelda Marcos was the wife of Ferdinand Marcos. She's from there. So she's a very important person in Philippine history. She was there for the 1-year anniversary, and we were her honored guests for dinner, which was really kind of blew me away. But that's how nicely they treat us in this city, Tacloban City, by the way. So we get special treatment, which is really nice. And and we get to really participate. There were a lot of ceremonies and events and things. And we were just, Mark, James, and I, the guys I chased with, we went to all the events and stuff. And it was just great to participate in it, to really feel like we're participating in the recovery, which is ongoing.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you got the chance to go back, Josh, because I can only imagine the feelings and just everything you experienced. It's almost kind of coming full circle, and the fact that this year was a celebration is the positive outlook, and hopefully they never have to deal with any kind of natural disaster like that ever again. Yeah, and I would love to kind of turn it to this year, Josh, and chasing and everything. It's been an interesting year, and I would love for you to kind of just break down the different storms you chased and the weather pattern and everything going on there.
It was an interesting year. Just like there's something about this year that just in terms of the Atlantic, it was just, wow, hard to get a feel for it. It was these dead periods and then these just crazy bursts of activity and then dead periods. There was just no rhythm to it. I think for a lot of folks who are kind of maybe, they started following hurricanes in the last decade. And I'm talking about maybe sort of younger weather enthusiasts or younger chasers, people in the early 20s. They grew up in they started following weather, let's say in the mid-teens or in the last decade. And they're used to the US getting just slammed by category 4 and 5 hurricanes every year, multiple hurricanes, lots of majors. Okay. So then this year seems kind of whoa, what happened? There was only one hurricane hit the US. That's kind of weird. Okay. This year was actually the normal year. This was actually now we're getting back to how normal climatology of the US some years gets hurricanes, some years doesn't. We got one hurricane on the average. The US gets I think 2 hurricanes a year. So it's sort of more of an average year, but it feels weird because we've had, starting in 2017, the United States is just, except for 2019, every year we've just gotten slammed by really bad hurricanes. And I should say, although this year seems not as bad, we did get a major hurricane, Hurricane Idalia. So it does continue the trend of a major hurricane landfall every year since 2017, except 2019. But we're still in quite a streak, but it definitely, for Americans, it was a little quieter. Now it was really busy, but everything was just kind of a lot of fish storms, a lot of stuff way out in the Atlantic. So it seemed like we were getting a lot of activity, but where it forms is just as important as how much forms.
And where it hits.
Yeah. Exactly. Stuff just couldn't seem to get west over to North America, which of course was great news for everybody.
Yes. We talk about that all the time. It's you could tell people it's a busy season. You have 20 named storms out in the Atlantic and maybe nothing hits the US. They're oh, no, it didn't happen. It did. It just wasn't hitting here. Or you get one and it hits a major metropolitan area.
Exactly. And that applies to the whole globe. The last decade has been a pretty bad one in the United States. And we've been getting so many just huge historical impacts, Laura, Ida, Ian, and then so many others. But what's interesting is when you look at worldwide hurricane activity, and of course they don't call them hurricanes everywhere, they call them typhoons or cyclones, but what we call a hurricane, worldwide hurricane activity the last several years has actually been well below normal. So it's been really busy in our part of the world, like Gulf of Mexico, Western Atlantic. We've been a little hotspot of activity, but worldwide, when you look at like around Australia and like Western Pacific, activity has actually been below normal when you look at the accumulated cyclone energy, which surprises a lot of people who just, they're only focused on our little part of the globe.
Were you in Otis? Did you go to see, were you?
No, that's a really painful topic for me. And I'm like totally not joking, you know. No, seriously, I'm actually, it's good to talk about it because it's therapeutic, you know.
You let it out. You let it out, Josh. You can, you're in a safe space.
And it's the first time I'm talking about it like publicly. But you know, it was one of those systems. I looked at it and I looked at all the computer models, I looked at everything, and I just was not sensing the potential, and I didn't go. And then of course it did that rapid intensification. And by the time I realized what was happening, it happened so fast. It was too late to get down there. And it pains me now to think about it. You know, it's not just that I live to cover these big events, but you know, Mexico, I've always considered Mexico to be like, that's my real passion. I love just Mexican hurricanes are like my thing, and specifically the west coast of Mexico. Like that's like totally like my turf, and I'm really an expert in that region. And to miss the biggest event in a century on that coast, it just like, I mean, it's really.
Don't feel bad. Everybody missed it. Everybody missed it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm curious, why do you think that was, Josh? What happened there? And at what point during that process of intensification were you like, okay, this is actually going to be serious?
Well, I mean, almost no one chases on the west coast of Mexico. I'm the only one. So I like once in a while someone else might go down there, but generally like no one, most chasers just don't like to go there for whatever reason. So I wouldn't expect anyone else to be down there, but I expect myself to never miss a big event down there. But it was, you know, it's an indication of the limits to our ability to forecast intensity. So there's two things. When there's a hurricane, you're forecasting, you're trying to anticipate the track, where it's going, and the intensity, how strong it's going to be. So looks like the computer models have gotten better and better and better about forecasting track. They've gotten more and more accurate. Where they still haven't made great advances is intensity. Hurricane intensity is just this weird thing. You know, sometimes they, like, I remember a couple years ago, Hurricane Pamela, an October storm recurving toward the coast of the west coast of Mexico. Everything about it, the computer models, the climatology, everything said it was going to be a big, huge impact. It just fell apart, came ashore as barely a hurricane. Why did that happen? Who knows? And then with Otis, it was the opposite. The models were just not enthusiastic about it. Almost none of them were. I think one model showed.
No, I think it was one, maybe two. There was at one, the most.
But like odd models that I don't look at generally. But the 5 models that I look at, including 4 hurricane models, none of them showed. It wasn't that they didn't show a category 5. They, like, most of them didn't show a hurricane really, or they showed it barely maybe becoming a hurricane. So it was one of the starkest examples of how sometimes the models just don't get it. But, you know, with Michael, that kind of happened too. Not as crazily, but with Michael, when the Hurricane Center issued their first advisory on Michael, they had it coming in the Panhandle as like a 75-mile-an-hour hurricane. Now, that was a couple of days before, so it wasn't quite as crazy. Another thing about Otis was how fast it went from a tropical storm to like a category 5 in like 18 hours. So it was an incredible example of RI. Yeah. And I was on the fence. I was like gonna go down there just in case, it was gonna be like something decent, and I didn't. And I'm just, I'll kick myself forever, because it was obviously it was a devastating event. From my point of view, as someone who's interested in meteorology, it was a fascinating event. And I just, and that there's not a lot of data from on the ground there. So I'm like, I would have collected really amazing data. Ouch. But it feels good to talk about.
Don't kick yourself over it. We all got it wrong. Those models were all over the board.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
they were.
I think one thing I'll say is I think that this is part of the chaser experience. I think everyone who chases professionally or just everyone who's passionate about it, I think everyone has that event that they that big event that they missed for whatever reason, and you know, it's like Chaser FOMO or whatever, you know, fear of missing out. I think we all have that. I think this was my category 5 miss. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, hey, before we go to break, Josh, again, thanks for being a part of this and helping to support the American Red Cross. Where can people find your videos and your stuff and check you out?
Thanks for asking. You can follow me on X, formerly Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube, just under the name iCyclone. So the letter I and the word cyclone, iCyclone. That's kind of like my brand name. And I also have a TV series, Mission Hurricane, which is on various streaming platforms.
Thank you for tuning in to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. You can watch our bi-weekly show live on youtube.com/StormfrontFreaks and download the audio version on your favorite podcast player. For links to our Patreon team of exclusive benefits, show notes, past shows, new videos, merchandise, and more, visit our website at stormfrontfreaks.com. While you're there, check out our interactive Chaser radar from our friends at zoomradar.com. If you'd like to contact us with questions or make comments about the show, shoot us an email to questions@stormfrontfreaks.com or follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Search for Stormfront Freaks. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time and tell a friend about the Stormfront Freaks podcast.